Well, welcome back in, everybody, to this edition of the 19th Hole Podcast for Golfers. I'm your host, Dennis Silvers, and we appreciate you tuning in on whatever platform. We've got a gentleman with us, one of our favorite returning guests for a number of reasons. And if you haven't heard Larry before, you're going to become a fan after the show, I guarantee you. Let me tell you a little bit about Larry. He is a long-standing attorney at law and litigator. He is the founder of Judicial Watch and Freedom Watch. Prior to him getting in his own practice, he was an assistant U.S. attorney and is very familiar with the ins and outs of the government and how that works. He is very involved in the golf world in the sense from a litigation standpoint, represents Patrick Reed, who is a standout on the LIV Tour. If you remember, you read about he just won in Hong Kong, shot a 59, so he's now involved in a very exclusive club, which is great and well-deserved. And Larry has his own weekly podcast that we'll hit upon as we get along in the show. I've got a number of topics that I want to run by Larry and get his thoughts, his opinion on some of them, and kind of bring you up to speed with what's been going on with both the LPGA Tour and the PGA Tour, as well as the LIV Tour. So right now, let me bring our special guest on, Mr. Larry KLAYMAN. And Larry, I hope that you and yours celebrated a great Thanksgiving, because you're one of the biggest turkeys I know. So
yeah, remember.
But yeah, I hope.
I had a line. I won't use it. I decided not to use it.
Okay, all right, that's all right.
So,
Let me get this out of the way. As you might or might not know, the LPGA commissioner, the current commissioner, Molly Salmon, is stepping down as commissioner in early January. I don't know if you've had any dealings with her, how familiar you are with the inner workings of the LPGA Tour, but she was there, I don't know, 4 years, and she did a good job. She got a lot more money for the players. She added some new sponsors, but apparently she was not getting along with her philosophy and how to run the tour with a number of the elite players. And I guess that forced her to kind of want to step down and go another direction. And I believe that position is going to be taken over by their chief legal officer until they do this worldwide search for a new commissioner. What are your thoughts?
I don't know the particulars of what her issues are. I don't think anybody really does. But I tell you, I really do like the LPGA Tour. And a year and a half ago, I was a marshal at the Women's U.S. Open in Pebble Beach. I really enjoyed it. I like watching them. Frankly, with the exception of Patrick and a few others, I prefer to watch the women than the men because I think their swings are better. And in fact, they tend to be better putters. So, and obviously they're better looking, most of them. So in any event, I do like watching the LPGA Tour. It's not like women's basketball, which I can't deal with.
Yeah.
Up and
back, up and back, up and back. Oh, missed the three-pointer again. But and it seems as of late, it has become a world tour, because if you look at the front page of the leaderboard, most times you're going to find very few Americans. And I keep asking my guests whether they think the Americans are going to dominate that tour like they did in years past. And most of them agree with me that it's not going to happen for a long, long time.
Well, there are very few Americans that have the dedication and work as hard as Asians do. I mean, that's one thing. I remember going out to the driving range several years ago when I started to play golf again. I had not played for 30 years because I was a lawyer in Washington, D.C. The weather was terrible there. It's hot, humid, and polluted. and I had a back issue, which I'm getting fixed sometime soon. But I went out to the driving range and I was watching some of the Asian kids with their parents standing behind them, egging them on and making sure they were doing,
Yeah.
proper, uh, preparation, to
Yep.
train properly. That's one thing about Asians. They're hardworking people.
They are.
And people in this country are resentful sometimes unfairly that Asians are dominant at UCLA and some of these
Yep.
other schools, particularly in California, but that's because they work harder.
Right. Exactly. I agree with you 100%. They're motivated and they put their head down and, nose to the grindstone. And,
And by the way, not to get too far in on this, a couple of years ago, I went out to Wilshire Country Club in LA. I was going to invite them to a charity that I was doing, particularly the ones in California, the
Right.
women play. And I went on Wednesday, which is when they practice, and I went up to several of the golfers, the women golfers, and the most friendly ones were the Asians. Some of the Americans actually were standoffish, and they were very
Interesting.
happy to talk to me. I remember Nasa Hataoka; she couldn't even speak English that well, and she was just so happy to try to talk to me
Yeah.
that I was very impressed.
Yeah. No, those are points well taken, and I agree with you on all of that. All right, let me switch gears for a minute. The Live Tour is said, and there's been a number of articles written lately, to be contemplating a deal with the DP Tour. Surprise, surprise.
Well, it's a surprise, but it's not a surprise. It's well known that long before Live came into existence, the Saudis, PIF, approached the DP World Tour and said, hey, why don't we join forces here? You've already got a nice tour. We can even make it better for you, with the financing. DP World Tour was not doing well economically. It was being starved by the PGA Tour. Well, kind of like an unrequited lover, the PGA Tour, seeing that Live eventually came into the market, made overtures to the DP World Tour, and they signed a strategic alliance agreement where the PGA Tour acquired a huge percentage of the DP World Tour,
Yeah.
as well as other rights. They're in effect, they became the same entity, a joint venture entity. And so consequently, the DP World Tour, which sees the handwriting on the wall, Live is now very successful, thanks to the Saudi Public Investment Fund and the great golfers that they brought on board, like my client Patrick, is that the DP World Tour apparently is considering getting closer to the Saudi Public Investment Fund for the funding. And to get back to the LPGA, people don't realize this, but the LPGA is largely funded by the Saudis. And that was what was so hypocritical, is that
Right.
Live golfers were being called acceptors of blood money,
You're right.
terrorists, murderers, etc. They didn't touch the women, who were actually more dependent on Saudi Arabia largesse than the men were.
Yeah.
So it's likely that they will come closer together. It's kind of like, I think the DP World Tour is making the PGA Tour jealous in a way, probably to up the ante to the PGA Tour's investment. That's my guess. Because I don't think the DP World Tour probably wants to sever relations with the PGA Tour because of the fact that they now have there's these cutout provisions where
Right.
DP World Tour players can play on the PGA Tour, that they can get tour cards, etc. That would cause an uproar among
Oh,
the
yeah.
players of the DP World Tour. So it's very complicated. And the bottom line is that Live will continue as a separate entity, regardless of whether there's some kind of deal with the PIF and the PGA Tour. They have to. There's no way the antitrust division will ever allow the two tours to merge, the PGA Tour and Live, and I certainly won't allow it if the DP World Tour makes a deal with Live. So that is the catch. Now here's something interesting too, Dennis, is that the mastermind of the anti-competitive conduct that occurred by the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour at the time that Live came into existence in June a few years ago was Tiger Woods. And Tiger Woods, sits on the player advisory committee. Now, he just gave an interview a few days ago where he gives the impression that he's for this deal.
Yeah.
Okay. I have
Right.
reason to believe he's not for this deal. And he cited one reason why it's going so slowly was the Department of Justice's antitrust division. I would suggest that it's him and certain other players on the PGA Tour that don't want it to happen for whatever reason. And because they want to penalize live players if they come back and play on the tour, in both tours. They want their pound of flesh. So I think people can pretty much be assured that these two tours will continue on in a separate way. Maybe they'll find ways to compete against each other as they're doing in Las Vegas this month.
Yep.
With Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau against Scotty Scheffler and Rory.
I was going to ask you about that. I don't mean to interrupt, of course. And I said it's probably going to be Shadow Creek that gets the nod. And sure enough, Shadow Creek did get the nod because MGM is more than happy to host it on their course. And it's a wonderful golf course to have an event like that. But what do you think of the fact with Scheffler and Koepka and Rory and DeChambeau showing up, and I'm not sure it's going to be 18 holes, but $4 million a piece, basically in appearance money, Larry, to play this thing. It's going to be on TNT, if our audience doesn't know, and it's called the Crypto.com. Those are the people that are supposedly putting up all this money. $4 million for this, Larry? It's ludicrous.
They should call the show Tales from the Crypt. Okay?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. This is not new. This is the hypocrisy, frankly, and the lying by Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods, and others. Okay, they just lied through their teeth. They're almost as bad as Joe Biden giving pardons in many ways.
Yeah, right.
Because there's always been attendance money. And Bubba Watson, confirmed that. So, when LIV came into existence, one of the criticisms and attacks, by the PGA Tour and DP World Tour, coupled with the sycophants, the yes men and women in the golf media industry, which basically gets down and commits oral sex on the PGA Tour, sorry for the French, because they want that access to those players,
right,
is the fact that LIV offering $150,000 per tournament for the players to play on top of being able to win a $4 million purse somehow was perverting the game of golf. It was taking it away from meritocracy. Well, here's the bottom line. Rory McIlroy does not show up to even play on the European Tour, the DP World Tour, unless cold hard cash of about $2 million is put on the table. And these people are money hungry. They're billionaires, but they're greedy. And so it's nothing new.
Yeah.
And, I don't begrudge the players the ability to make money. These are great players. And we live in a capitalist country. Frankly, it's been reaffirmed as of November 5th, 2024, that we're not going to be at least socialist for the next 4 years. But this is not unusual at all.
No, but it's a whole lot of money, and I hope they get a good turnout. I'm looking forward to the presser that they're going to have there. And
the bigger question is, Janice, is that the PGA Tour has, and there's an internal revolt right now, in particular. The players who are not of that upper echelon, the elite, frankly, are getting crumbs, and the upper elite are stuffing money into their own pockets. The Rory McIlroys, the Tiger Woods, the Patrick Cantlays, the rest. It's all geared for that, including with the Ryder Cup. Now they're going to get $400,000 just to show up. So what about the young guys that are coming up, the people that don't, aren't in the top 50,
right,
don't get to the elevated events, and those people they're really pissed off because that's what Monahan has done as the commissioner. Now Monahan, it's a scandal. He's making $23 million a year just in what's being reported, not even including what's likely getting to him under the table. How do you run a nonprofit, a 501c6, and get paid $23 million?
Yeah, it's ludicrous.
It's not. The IRS should remove your tax exemption.
Yeah.
So this is what you're dealing with. The PGA Tour is a corrupt RICO enterprise, And it's just a matter of time till someone brings a lawsuit in that regard. I don't have standing as a consumer to do it. I probably would have done it if I could. But if some golfer comes forward from the PGA Tour, let me know. You can reach me at leklayman@gmail.com. It's a RICO enterprise. It's a racketeering enterprise, the way it's been
Yeah,
set up.
yeah, 100%. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, Larry, we got to step aside, take a short break, and when we come back, we will have a lot more with our very special, very informed guest, attorney Larry Klayman. Stay with us. We are back right after this. I'm Dennis Silvers, host of the 19th Hole Golf Podcast, asking each and every person who plays golf, beginner or seasoned player, what's the most important club in your bag? Chances are you'll get a lot of different answers. There really is only one right answer. And if you guessed your putter, you are 100% correct. Just ask any professional golfer, man or woman who plays on any major tour. I am very excited to announce that Zebra Golf, one of the game's most iconic putter brands, has made a long-awaited return to golf's retail marketplace with the launch of their milled series that feature 4 new putter styles designed to suit even my putting stroke. All putters, like golf clubs, are not created equal. Zebra mill putters are now offered in your choice of 4 awesome models, 2 blades, 1 mallet, and 1 higher MOI fang design with adjustable weights available to help customize your putter. All come with a mid-size grip for enhanced feel. So if you want the one club that's going to lower your scores, why wait? Go to zebragolf.com and put one in your bag today. The only thing you've got to lose are strokes. Hi, I'm Dennis Silvers, host of the 19th Hole Podcast for golfers. Here to tell you about a product that's improved my game, Poptical sunglasses. Unlike ordinary sunglasses, Popticals are collapsible using a unique rail system that lets you easily store them in their protective case. They offer crystal clear vision, UV protection, and are scratch resistant and water repellent. Made in Italy, they look great on and off the course. Plus, Popticals come with a 2-year warranty, a 30-day return policy, and make the perfect gift for the golfer in your life. Visit Popticals.com for more info. All right, welcome back, everybody. We got more coming with our special guest, Larry Klayman. And Popsicles, by the way, the sunglasses really are the best I've ever worn on the golf course. They have really made a true believer out of me in their special lenses and whatever. Back with attorney Larry Klayman. And speaking about the Ryder Cup, according to Tiger, they should be donating that money that they're getting to charity. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, what everybody liked about the Ryder Cup, and my client Patrick Reed is Captain America. He fought the most famous match with Rory McIlroy and won years ago. That's how he got the name, Captain America. And Patrick has come forward and said he doesn't think that the money should be given, that it's a matter of pride, it's a matter of American nationalism, for lack of a better word, to compete. The Europeans aren't taking it. I agree with what Tiger said in that regard. Yeah, if you're going to take the money, give it to charity. And certainly there are people that could use it. Look at all the homeless that they've got.
Oh, totally.
All over the country today. They could use some help. Our little friend Biden just gave $1 billion to some African country, Angola. And yet, are starving on the streets, and then people are really under a lot of stress in North Carolina and Florida and elsewhere. It's an outrage.
Yeah.
So we can make up for that by giving money to charity to help people in need. I agree
Yeah,
with that.
and we have a lot of things going on in this country, as you're well aware of, where that amount of money, and what do they? I think they get $400,000 or something, and for most of them, I mean, it's a lot of money. It's not a lot of money to them because, like you said, these people are just multimillionaires and have a lot of money. But speaking about Tiger,
Billionaires in the case of Tiger and Rory, they're billionaires.
true, true.
Yeah.
Speaking about Tiger, he is not going to play in his own tournament, the Hero World Challenge in the Bahamas, after his back surgery, because he said he wants next year, he wants to play once a month. He wants to play the Genesis and he wants to play the four majors. Now, you tell me, Larry, how in the hell can you even think about being competitive with a schedule like that? You can't.
Yeah, you can. And we've seen just in the last few years, before he had his fifth back operation,
Yeah.
that it's very difficult for him to walk 18 holes.
Yeah.
So he can play. I mean, if he was a mensch, as we say in Yiddish, okay, I'm a Jewish Christian, I'm Messianic, so I'll use a little Yiddish here. He would let somebody else play in his place in the Masters and in these other tournaments because he has no chance of winning the Masters. He can't walk that course. It's too
Right.
hilly.
Right.
There's no way that's going to happen. He may eke through the cut as he did last year, but he can't win. So if you're going to be, a good person, then say, okay, I've won enough, but let somebody else have a shot at it right now. Create a spot for someone else. But he's not going to. I mean, basically, he's 49 now. He'll qualify for the senior tour next year if he wants to play competitive golf. I'm sure he can beat those guys, on the senior tour.
Well, I was talking about that with Mark Lai a couple of weeks ago, who's a great, great announcer, great guy. And I said, Mark, do you think Tiger's going to play on the senior tour? He said, absolutely. And I said, well, let me ask you this. How are they going to hide the money that they're going to give him to make sure that he plays on the senior tour? Because everybody wants him out there. Probably give it to his foundation or whatever. And he said, I agree with you 100%, but we'll see how effective he is even on the senior tour.
That's a great point, Dennis, because the people in a senior tour are playing for the love of the game, not
Right.
the love of money.
Correct.
Okay, they get almost nothing. Okay,
Correct.
It's like the old days when I was a kid. And so they're going to have to be paying Tiger under the table to get him to do that.
Yeah.
And to, he can have a golf cart, I think, on the senior tour. John
Yes,
Daly used to
right.
have one on that. But what's really interesting as well is that some of the people on the senior tour, like Fred Couples, who's just one nasty individual. People think he's really a nice guy. He's not. I have inside information. He was one of the most vicious people against Liv and against the players on Liv. And frequently I listen to PGA Tour radio. They attacked me as well. They attacked Patrick for a while. I used to basically laugh. I'd listen to it going home from work, which was an honor at the time. They don't attack anymore because they don't want to upset any chance for, as they think it's going to be a merger. But the reality is Couples used to come on there. I think he had a show. And he was one of the nastiest, most vicious people of all. He's not a nice person at all.
Yeah.
He plays on the senior tour. He's very jealous that Live players were making that kind of money.
Making that kind of money. Exactly right. Exactly right. Speaking of that, your name has been popping up all over Facebook, all over Google about what you're doing currently with the litigation that you are involved in right now. Tell everybody about that, a little bit about that, what you can.
It's an interesting story. It kind of is a corollary to what President Trump went through. You see, I'm wearing the Trump National Golf hat today. I support President Trump. I'm very happy he's president. And I think even the left should be happy because this country will be revived.
Yeah, I agree.
But in any event, I brought this lawsuit in Palm Beach, Florida, as a consumer, a golf consumer, against the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, their commissioners, Jay Monahan and Keith Pelley at the time. I also included the official golf world ranking and the Golf Channel because they all were conspiring and continue to conspire to prevent Live from really flourishing, really coming into its own with media and everything else. And the theory of the case was that I was deprived the benefit of tickets that I would buy in the PGA Tour because I could not see, a competitive strength of field
Yeah.
because we weren't allowing independent contractor live players to play on the
Right.
PGA Tour, even though they were still members. Okay, so they were suspended. So that case went through two motions to dismiss, which I won. And then when it appeared that I was going to get the deposition and documents of Tiger Woods, who, is a golf icon for, better
Yes.
or worse,
Yeah.
the judge got cold feet. I think he realized that this wasn't good for his future. I sensed from remarks that he made that he wants to be a federal judge. State judges, want that prestige, they want the more money, etc.
Sure.
And you don't have to work as hard as a federal judge because you've got two law clerks that help you. In Florida, you don't have any. So he came up with these reasons that were given to him by the PGA Tour, which was based on fraudulent information. It wasn't even evidence in the case. And he dismissed the case right before I could depose Tiger Woods and also before documents had to be produced. Now, having done that, I took an appeal, but I also filed a separate action, which I could file under Florida Rules of Civil Procedure for fraud on the court. So there's a new case against the PGA Tour, Jay Monahan, their lawyers at Sidley and Austin and Skadden Arps, the DP World Tour, its lawyers, and itself, and the others for fraud on the court. And I even joined the judge. I'm not asking for damages. It's just so I can get an order that he set aside his ruling. And that's going forward. But the issue that remains, the judge who dismissed the case, Judge Delgado, who got cold feet, I believe. In Florida, if you go against Tiger Woods, that's probably not good for your your future. And
Or your golf game. Yeah. Yeah.
I was up against lawyers that had over 5,000 lawyers in them, firms, which are very influential as the clearinghouse for people to become federal judges. So that's my theory. I hope it's not worse than that, based upon what otherwise may have happened here. But here's the thing, is that if the court is playing it straight, this case is coming back. The PGA Tour, Jay Monahan, and the other defendants, and I joined Tiger Woods as well, could very well have to pay large damages for what they have done. And notwithstanding an appeal, which is the separate action. But even Judge Delgado left the issue of Tiger Woods' documents being released publicly to be decided. And there's a new judge on the case because Judge Delgado, when I had to join him as a defendant, recused himself. And there will be a decision coming out soon on that. And these documents, I can say without revealing what's in them, are shocking. And they show anti-competitive conduct by Tiger Woods. So this is what's at issue here. And but I can't get into the particulars of it.
Yeah, no, that, of course not. We certainly understand. I heard something, Larry, that just blew me away with some of the people you have to deal with in this kind of a case. Like some of the lawyers represented the woman that sued President-elect Trump, who
This
all
is
of a
really
sudden remembers she got raped.
I got to tell you, the PGA Tour, that was the point I was about ready to make. We know what goes on with politics, with weaponization, and how the legal system has become perverted, frankly, not in a sexual sense, but it works, okay? Actually, maybe there's some analogy here. But the PGA Tour is in bed with the Democratic Party. And, that's whose pockets they, as I would allege, they had to line.
Yeah.
While Biden was president, and he still is for the next 60 or so days. But if you can believe this, the lawyers who represent Tiger Woods in my lawsuit in Palm Beach, where I'm seeking his documents and deposition, are the same lawyers, Heckler and Fink, who represented the woman, E. Jean Carroll, who miraculously remembered 40 years after the fact that Donald Trump had raped her in a dressing room in a department store in New York City, and then got a verdict thanks to a very leftist judge and jury. Yeah, it is an outrage. And listen to this. Tiger Woods got the Medal of Freedom from President Trump. So great gratitude, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, and then the local counsel, David Marcus, is a lawyer that represented Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party in a RICO case, racketeering case that Trump brought against Hillary Clinton and others that caused the Russian collusion investigation. These are the lawyers of Woods who are, in effect, the lawyers of the PGA Tour because they weren't chosen, randomly, believe me.
Right.
So that is a scandal in and of itself. And these lawyers,
Unreal.
it used to be Kaplan, Hecker, and Fink. The firm jettisoned the lead partner, Kaplan, but they've lied through their teeth. They've acted incredibly unethically. They even came into the case on behalf of Woods before they even got permission to do so. But these are the lawyers that represent Tiger Woods. He's tainting his reputation just by having these people as lawyers.
Gosh, that's unreal. That is
I mean, you can
unreal.
take it anymore. Yeah,
That is unreal. That's
it's an outrage. It's an
yeah.
absolute
That's
outrage.
in and of itself a real good story. My God, what do you think of Kevin Kisner being selected by NBC to be their new lead golf analyst? I'm going, really? Another former tour player turns announcer? I don't get it. I like him as a
Well,
golfer, but
I'm not real fond of Kevin Kisner myself, although he's taken some political heat in the past, and I admire him for that. I think he's a Trump supporter, but he's made really false and nasty comments about Patrick in the past, about what happened at Georgia. He wasn't even at Georgia when Patrick played. It's total, excuse the French, bullshit. So I
okay.
suspect he'll be spewing more bullshit on Golf Channel. But it basically means
Yeah.
for him taking that job that he thinks his career is washed up, because you can't do both. You can't
Exactly.
play on the court and do that at the same time. And
Exactly.
he was still relatively in his prime, so I'm surprised
Yeah.
that he's doing.
Yeah. I'd like to know, I'd be curious as to who else they interviewed and what they thought were good qualifications, prior experience, blah, 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 and how they ended up choosing him. But we'll have to wait and see, till he gets in the booth and see what
having a
happens.
little senior moment here. Who was the prior analyst that they let go for NBC?
Well, there was a thing with, or was that CBS? Well, I'm thinking of Paul Azinger.
Paul Azinger. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Paul Azinger was so bad that people couldn't listen to him anymore.
Yeah.
So Kevin Kisner at least has a personality and he says things that are, controversial.
Yeah. He's a little sharp. Yeah.
More interesting as long as he tells the truth, which he has a hard time doing. But he's more interesting than Azinger. Azinger makes stupid remarks, and people. I remember looking at Twitter and now X and saying, "Why is this guy there?" I mean, he's lost it. So, but apparently they're bringing him back in part too. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, on the senior tour. I got to tell you though, and that's a whole other show, which unfortunately, and I forgot to mention, by the way, our guest being as popular as he is and everybody's pulling at him, we're going to have a little bit of a short show today because he's got to get to a court hearing, and I don't want anything to happen with him and the judge. So we're gonna have a little bit of a short show, but. Quickly, though, Larry, I want to run down and ask you about this. What do you think of some of the rule changes that the PGA Tour has made, cutting down on a number of Monday qualifiers, cutting down on the field of certain PGA Tour event? This got to fall right into the lap of the elite players like Rory, like Scheffler. They've got to be foaming at the mouth because, number one, fewer people to climb over. They're not elite players. These guys are journeymen. They're struggling. I think it's ludicrous.
No, it is. And, the young players could create some excitement. People like underdogs, and
Yeah.
And Scheffler's a great player, no question. But he had very weak strength of fields. To win 7 tournaments, you can't go to Tiger. They didn't have the competition on the PGA Tour that they had because the great players left and went to live in large part. But it's interesting because in listening to PGA Tour radio, I'm even picking up significant criticism there about what's going on, and that's unusual because the PGA Tour pays their salaries.
Right.
So even they recognize that this is totally unfair and elite, and something which ultimately has fomented a civil war inside of the PGA Tour with the younger up and coming players in particular.
Yeah. I posted on Facebook. I said players ought to go on strike, which they will never do until the PGA Tour and what other governing bodies are involved changes their mind and really opens this thing up to the journeymen, to the new players, give them a chance, to do something.
As Monahan, kept spewing, and people like Eamon Lynch at one time, although he's getting critical now too. He hates LIV and hates everybody on LIV.
Yeah.
It's a meritocracy. LIV is not a meritocracy. The PGA Tour is no meritocracy. The difference is LIV does it out in the open. They say what they're doing, okay? And there's nothing wrong with it. But the PGA Tour is doing it under the table.
Yeah.
And they're doing it in a way that is very,
very
point. Careful and devious to
That's
exclude
a great point.
up-and-coming players to the advantage of people like Woods, McIlroy, and the others who were lining their pockets with cold cash.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Very, very salient. Anyway, I know you got to go. I appreciate your time. Interesting as always. We're going to have you back, obviously, sooner than later because I got a lot more for you. So in the meantime, enjoy the holiday season. Are you coming out? Are you coming out to Shadow Creek to watch this thing?
What day is it?
I forgot the date, the exact date.
I may. I'm actually having an operation on December 12th to fix my back, hopefully. And if I don't make it out of the operation, I'll be watching down from heaven, wishing you well. So,
all right.
But hopefully I'll go up and there'll be a nice golf course there.
Oh yeah, okay? Yeah.
In any event, if people want to see what I do in my public interest capacity, go to freedomwatchusa.org. Or if you want to read about the case down in Palm Beach, LarryKlayman.com. So thank you.
All right. And when is your podcast on? I mentioned you had a weekly podcast as well.
Well, I do one virtually every day. So you can go to freedomwatchusa.org. But the big one is on Friday.
It's on Friday.
That's the longer one. That's more like a radio show that I do on Friday.
Okay. Like it. I like it. So when you get your back fixed, you won't be asking for as many shots as you do right now.
The doctor told me putting in 2 new discs were going to make me 2 inches bigger. I said, "Where, doctor?"
Love it. Well, we wish you good luck with that, and I'm sure everything's going to be fine.
Sorry for the off-color humor, but I couldn't resist.
Yeah, no, I love it. Anyway, again, we'll let you go. We'll have you back soon.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Larry. Larry Klayman, everybody. We got one more short break to take, and we'll come back and finish the show up. So give this a look. We'll be right back. The Revolutionary Power to Golf Club is helping golfers around the world continue to enjoy the greatest game of all. This amazing club requires no swing to hit shots from 50 up to 225 yards. That's right, no swing to hit shots, including fades, draws, low shots, as well as high ones. One incredible club does it all. Golfers with a wide variety of physical issues, including bad backs, hips, shoulders, and more, are now back in the game golfing with friends and family. Just set the club to the desired distance, and with a push of the button, the easy-to-use Power to Golf Club launches shots down the fairway and onto the green. The Power to Golf Club has been endorsed by some of the biggest names in golf, and the number of golfers enjoying the game by use of our unique technology continues to grow. Whether a physical issue or just want to join in on the fun, the Power to Golf Club is for you. Don't be left on the sidelines. Get back in the game today. Visit at powergolfclub.com. One of the perks about being in golf media is that I get to try every club ever made. Of course, like most things, some are better than others. I'm here to tell you that I have found unquestionably the absolute best performing set of irons I have ever played, and my scores show it. Let me introduce you to Grindworks, custom-fitted irons that are made to fit your game. Grindworks offers players 3 different styles of irons. You can choose muscle-back irons, cavity-back irons, and even blades, along with some awesome wedges. And when you purchase your clubs, Grindworks lets you choose the type of shaft you want, the type grip you prefer, and even will adjust the loft and lie of your clubs if needed. That's unheard of. So what are you waiting for? Feel the power and experience and performance of these amazing clubs. Simply go to grindworksusa.com or call 281-651-4046 to order. Trust me, your handicap will love you for it. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the 19th Hole podcast for golfers. I'm Dennis Silvers. Told you Larry is a great guest, knows a lot about a lot of stuff going on in the world of golf. That's why we like having him on, because we had kind of that inside baseball. But anyway, you start enjoying the holiday season. Same time, same place next week. We'll have another great guest for you. So for Larry KLAYMAN, I'm Dennis Silvers. So long. See you soon, everybody. Bye.